What's going on, everybody? Today we are going to talk a little bit about Bournemouth and what has happened in the last week or so in terms of managerial appointments. I don't want to say sackings. They left by mutual consent, which I firmly believe was mutual consent. A lot of times you see mutual consent and you think there's no way, but this one seems a little bit mutual. Eddie Howe, obviously, he's a good manager. We can say plenty of things about Eddie Howe. He's tactically, I guess. His plan A is pretty good. I mean, it's a difficult position to have such a plan A. Now, his plan A is a lot of moving the football around, a bit open kind of football. I don't think that football, though, particularly fits a team that fights relegation all the time. To me, he never had a plan B, some kind of way of sitting back and soaking up pressure and, grinding out results. It didn't seem like Eddie Howe was that kind of manager. I think Eddie Howe's tactical style would really, really work at a bigger club. Arsenal would probably be a good option. If I wanted to think of it that way, that would probably be a good place for him. Not that he's going to end up there or anything like that. Obviously, his future is up in the air, but just as an example, I think he'd do really well at a place like Arsenal, where they can play open football and they've got really, really good attacking quality, and he doesn't really need to grind out results very often in terms of, nicking draws and stuff like that. But yeah, he did so well with this Bournemouth team to bring them from where they were to where they were in the Premier League, and they were there for I'm not sure how many years now. It's quite a few. 5, 6, 7, something like that. They've been around quite a bit in the Premier League now and stayed up with limited budget. I think their net spend is like 90 million over the last 5 or 6 years, which in the Premier League is really, really low. So he's done pretty well for where he is. Obviously, he has his flaws. Most managers do. As we said, he doesn't really have a plan B for grinding things out lower down on the table. He also, to me, or whether this is him or not, their buying in general at Bournemouth has not been great in terms of buying players. They've spent, it was like 45 million, 50 million on those players from Liverpool, and as a Liverpool fan, it's complete robbery. 20 million for Solanke, 15-ish for Ibe, I think, and then 6 for Brad Smith, who I believe left the club on a free and played like 6 total times or something like that for Bournemouth. I mean, their buying in general has not been great, and that doesn't help when you have to be incredibly shrewd with your financial dealings, considering what happens at the club and, the stadium and things like that. Only seats 11,000-ish. You're not going to collect as much money as, obviously, as some of the bigger stadiums there, and you have to, pay Premier League wages, and it's difficult. It's definitely difficult at Bournemouth, and I think maybe it got a little bit stale, and they went down, and he probably wanted to move on. He thinks he can manage in the Premier League, I imagine, and the club maybe wanted to move on as well, and, it got a little bit stale. We can bring someone else in and just give it a little bit of a refresher, and that's completely okay in a situation as is. But they have bought in, or promoted, I'm going to just to say it's a promotion. Jason Tindall will be the new manager there. He's been an assistant with Eddie Howe for 12 years, I believe. 3 years at Bournemouth, then came back and did a year at Burnley and went with Eddie Howe, and then came back to Bournemouth. This is what we're gonna talk about here. This hiring, not because it's a problem. I don't think it's I'm not going to say it's a really good hire, not because it could be, obviously, and he's been around the club and he's been shadowing Eddie Howe the whole time, and maybe they don't want to get too far away from Howe, but just a little bit of a change, and that's what you get with Jason Tindall, I assume. My thing, what scares me about this hire is he's never really managed at this level before. He had a little spell at a lower end club. What was it, Weymouth, for 2007, 2008. He hasn't had the managerial experience, obviously, up here, and this is a huge, huge year for Bournemouth. A massive, massive, massive year. And not too many people understand how big this year is for Bournemouth. There are some good players here at Bournemouth, and we'll see how many are sitting around when the championship season starts up and when the transfer window closes and things like that. But as we said, they don't bring in a ton of money in their stadium. 11,000 people is not a lot, even for championship level. And the parachute money is just going to stop if you don't go back up. It's not going to continue to come your way. So that money is not going to keep on coming. And your difference between payouts every year in the championship and the Premier League, even if you're just surviving in the Premier League, is a huge, huge difference. And the way the financial workings at Bournemouth are, on the pitch has to be above average. It has to be up there. You have to outdo teams that are going to have better individual players than you, in theory, and it's a difficult spot. This is a very difficult spot for Jason Tindall to jump in and start his first time managing at this level. It's going to be very, very difficult. You worry for Bournemouth if they don't go straight back up because of all these things. Finances, the players, you're going to have to be scouting and bringing in really good players for lower end money. I mean, you cannot afford to make any more mistakes in the transfer market. And this Bournemouth team could really quickly go back down the league. Back down the leagues, just quick. This could happen really, really, really quick. And for me, if I'm Bournemouth management or the Bournemouth higher-ups, I'm looking for someone who's had experience in these things before. Bringing teams up, managing in the championship before, anything that could bring a bit of an edge, so we could attempt to go straight back up, because this could fade away really, really quickly. It could fade away really, really quickly. A couple good players leave. If you're in the championship, the first year you could understand a couple of good players sticking around trying to go back up. But 2 years, 3 years, these players are not going to stay around. There's no way. There are too many good players here that are going to sit around that won't sit around for the next 2 or 3 years. They have to get this right. And to experiment with a manager who's never really done this before in such a pivotal season, to me is... I just wouldn't do it myself. Jason Tindall could be a brilliant manager. And I don't even think it's about that at the moment, especially now. I think this is about getting in a manager who has done this before and can push this team back up to the Premier League. I would not be experimenting at the moment. Obviously, they're with Jason a lot more than I am, and they could see something, and they may know he's does a little bit more than, obviously that meets the eye. That happened a lot at, with I forgot his name. It was like Buvac or something. He was Klopp's number 2, and he was almost the tactical guy, and he was great with that stuff. And when he left originally, it kind of showed a little bit. And that could be obviously Jason, and Jason might be, ready to step in, and, it's all smooth sailing, and that's completely fine. But as management, I would not be taking such a risk with this season. Maybe you don't survive the first year, or maybe you don't go straight back up. You get rid of your manager again, and then you bring Jason in. I could see that happening, but this is so important. This is so important. And I know if you're a Bournemouth fan and you're listening to this, you understand how important this is. And it was, I'm not going to say this is like Blackpool, but it's Blackpool, you knew when they went down that this could fall really, really quickly. And it did. And it fell right off, and you worry that way with Bournemouth. But Yeah, so let me know what you guys think. I just worry a little bit. This is a worrying hire for me. Obviously, for the reasons I listed, it's not that he's a bad manager or anything like that, but I just worry a little bit. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comments, guys. And that is going to be it. I hope you've enjoyed. Stay tuned for more. And peace.